Alright guys, we've got a scud in the water, and we're gonna see that, well, that didn't go. Oh, maybe the chase is on. Schismatogobius Ampluvinculus. Now this is an awesome microfish that we're going to talk about. I say micro because this is known as the Taiwanese micro goby, and there's an Indonesian version and about a dozen other versions of the Schismatogobius species, but this one happens to be one of the most fierce and also one of the most interesting. Also, it happens to be completely scaleless, and it's a true color changing fish like a chameleon. So let's take a look at them and learn a little more. So as you can see, they are benthologic. They like to hang out at the bottom, and when you see their eye, I'm just going to mention this now while we're looking at the light reflecting off of it just right. When you see that eye, you see that it had a green color to it, and then you can see a normal pupil here, but there's musculature all around that eye that allows this little guy to actually filter out different UV and visible light. So these guys see not only visible light like we do, but actual UV. Now, the other cool thing about them is they're named the dragon goby. And you see those little clear flaps that kind of attach behind the fins up front, right near the gills. Let's see here. They're kind of hard to see, but basically they allow the front fins, which are on either side, they allow them to be stretched out along with the piece of skin in between, and they make the little thing look like a hood on a cobra, or just this kind of intimidating, it expands their head. Now also, this is a male here, and so its head is bigger, and it's used for, the head muscles and the neck muscles are used for settling down in that substrate. They live in regions from Taiwan to Japan and in between on various small islands, and they are exclusively freshwater as adults. Now, hardly anything is known about this species beyond a few things that basically we deduce from other species that are similar. The things like the compound lenses on the eyes that basically, they're not true eyelids, but they're basically lenses that there are at least two of over the eyes. But there is only one actual paper published on these guys, these little critters, in the scientific world. So over here we have a female, and you can see her neck is a little bit more streamlined with the rest of the body. You can make out her fins a little better. And also, right now she's sporting a shadowy pattern and then pink on her head and also on some of her neck area. So, in contrast, you can see there's always a little bit of pink, which is just blood that you can see through the translucent skin. And this being a scaleless fish, it actually has chromatophores like an octopus or a chameleon, and it's able to flex these little things, these little cell layers, and change color and pattern very rapidly. Now, its default pattern is kind of this, and it tends to have this kind of striped or either diamondback kind of chain link look to it, having dark brown and black, and then its base color being a tan or creamy white color. However, it can also look completely all white, all black, brown, pink, champagne, and yellow. So while it's not a true chameleon in the sense of range of colors, it can change a lot of colors. And this thing can move quickly too, both moving along the bottom, kind of using its fins as its stability in a way to kind of prop itself up, moving through sand and substrate, soil and earth, or moving, across the water, through the water like a normal fish or eel, more like an eel with the body design. Now, they also bury burrow into the sand, and oftentimes they'll leave little burrows if it's a silty solid sand that will hold a shape. This stuff is not, but if you have sand or silt like that you'd find in a riverbank or something, they'll leave burrows in which these females at nighttime, which it's nighttime now, generally try to hide in the burrows that the males leave behind, or that other animals, worms and other little things leave behind. Now let's kind of talk about the care, and then we'll get back to some more trivia and feeding these incredibly awesome little creatures. So, as I said, this is the Taiwanese micro dragon goby. So it's kind of a long name, several parts, but it is a really cool fish, and brand new to the hobby, only discovered as a species in 1995. And right now I want you to take note of another thing. So you see its eyes, how tight they are together on the top of its head? It's in hunting mode. So this male is looking for something to eat. And so he's moving around the tank with his eyes positioned forward, ready to attack, not as concerned with what's to either side of him. Whereas this female, she's resting, and if we can get a view of up top a little better, she's got a black dot on her pattern in between her eyes, but they're not, the muscles have not constricted and flexed, so her eyes are on either side of her head, like a deer or a cow or a horse, you know, an animal that's not a predator, like a wolf or lion or something along those lines, a bear, or humans for that matter. So this fish to keep is a little tricky, but not too hard if you just make a few adjustments to your average tank. And you want to keep it in a hillstream type tank, which means that you want the water to be turning over at a rate of at least 5 times an hour, if not 10 or even 20 times an hour. So this is a 20 long tank, and I've actually kept the water level low on purpose, about 3 to 4 inches lower than the top of the tank. And there's the lip on the tank, which isn't foolproof, but it generally will stop the gobies from climbing. As I do have bumblebee gobies in here, which obviously these dragon gobies are compatible with these other fish that I have them with, as well as the adult dwarf shrimp, the cherry shrimp. They will survive together, get along together just fine. If they could eat the shrimp, they would, but you know, basically they'll try to size them up, find out that they can't eat them, and that's the full-grown size right back there of the biggest ones you're gonna get. That's a full-grown male back there. And unlike many species of fish, the male actually is the larger of the two. And you can kind of tell the male generally by a wider, broader neck and then a tapered body in the back. So a smaller tail, kind of a teardrop general shape. See, now it's relaxed a little bit again too. Its eyes are not completely facing forward. They're off to the side, and it's relaxed a bit. But those jowls or muscles there are designed to scrape biofilm and moss and algae and little crustaceans off of various substrates in your aquarium. So if you're keeping them, it's really key to have either substrate or a decor or hardscape that is older. Now, this is a new tank, newish, only a month or two old for me, but both the filter media in the hang off the back and the stones and wood in here have been in tanks for several years, so they're completely cycled in that sense, and this tank was well seasoned microscopically, and as far as all sorts of little organisms go, from the very teeny little things that they'll manage to eat that we don't really see in our aquarium but live there, you know, little infusoria and things like that, as well as some of the bigger things that we do see, like water fleas or seed shrimp that sometimes appear in aquaria. So to feed these guys, you generally want to be feeding them live food if you have it. That is what they enjoy. It helps clean out their system, having that hard shell on a lot of the microcrustaceans that they eat, like cyclops or daphnia and things like that, brine shrimp. And the protein, obviously, is what they are used to, being that they are a predominantly predatorial little nano fish. Now, the females may stay as small as an inch long, whereas the males, this one is just under 2 inches, maybe an inch and a half long, and probably full grown. And like I said, those jowls are for digging in the sand, but also for scraping, as they have lots of little teeth in their mouth that comb through either substrate that they spit out of their mouth as they kind of tumble it around and try to see if there's anything that they want to eat in it, or little teeth to grasp onto any surface that has those colonies of Aufwuchs or various biofilms that they enjoy. So those things, as well as the fact that this is a temperate fish, it likes cooler waters, make it a little trickier to keep. Other than that, though, it's pretty standard. You don't want to get high nitrates, but that's true with all hillstream species, as well as most rainbow species of pseudomagills, or these threadfin rainbow fish that are living in here. And you don't want too hard of water or too acidic of water. Really what we're trying to mimic is rain falling on these tropical islands, these remote islands out in the Pacific that get these massive rainfalls a few times a year during the rainy season, and then pretty steady rain in between the massive floods that happen. But because of this, they have to have the ability to adapt, and all of the various goby species that are found in the Indo-Pacific region and Australasia, Micronesia, are extremely adaptable in that they can have babies in freshwater, and then they'll feed down in the brackish headwaters of the river, or they can actually have babies and they go out all the way to sea. And when they do that, they actually have larval babies, and some species are able to either develop eggs with little yolk sacs, and the fish will hatch with a little bit of a food source and a jump start for a few days, whereas if it's the rainy season, the way they usually will reproduce is that they have maybe 200, 300, all the way up to 1,000 eggs in some of these species. If we're looking at these birdsong stiphodons up here, there's a male and female next to each other up there. They're known to have up to 5,000 eggs. So we don't actually have records of how these reproduce. There's no reports of them reproducing in aquaria yet, as they were only described in a research paper in 1995, but more specifically, their species was only declared, its own singular standing species, apart from the Indonesian and the Chinese variety, as well as a number of others, due to the number of dorsal and pectoral fin rays, as well as a few other anatomical changes that are different. And that means that 2017 is really the first time that this was that the Ampluvinculus, hard to say, has stood on its own as a species. Now, the name Schismatogobius is Greek, and it means split or broken for schism. And then Goby, or gudgeon, which in Latin, or I guess you could call it Greek, but it's a later word in Latin, so it's kind of a compound word with two origins, two linguistic origins. And then the Ampluvinculus, hard to say, basically means amplifier and bottom, and so its name is the bottom amplifier, and it could be taken as rear end or buttocks amplifier, but it means bottom as in substrate amplifier, and it's a translation that may be slightly off. The team that did most of this work is predominantly a Chinese team by the name of Feng Chao and Chen, that discovered these fish in southeastern Taiwanese rivers, and there have been findings of them all the way down as far south as Java in Indonesia, and off the coast of Borneo on some of the islands there. And we think that that is because when they lay those tiny little eggs that are larval, I mean, they're smaller than baby brine shrimp when they are laid and hatch, they wash out down the river, down to sea during the wet seasons, and then they end up eating all the rich protein sources that you can find out in the open ocean. But beyond that, then they get older, and then they start to look for a new place to call home that is a freshwater river, as they're about 1/2 inch long, and they make their way up. Now, they also have the ability with their pelvic fins to create a little disc. Now, some fish, like these Stiphodons here, all the Stiphodon species actually, they have a pelvic fin disc that is always fused, and they use that to climb rocks or glass for that matter. Any hard, smooth surface they can climb up very easily and kind of leapfrog their way up, as well as kind of holding their breath essentially out of water. Now, these guys can do the same thing, but their fins are not completely fused, so they're able to kind of add to that look of that dragony hood that you'll see when you look at them head on, as well as expanding that mouth. It allows for more room in the expansion of it, and for them to be able to open that mouth and eat even larger prey. So let's try to feed them, speaking of prey, and we'll talk about a few more little tidbits on them as we finish it up. But thanks for watching. Go ahead and hit that like button if you're interested in these little hillstream nano species and brand new to the hobby and really to science, honestly, species of fish that we're trying to cover here. And if you're interested in picking up some of these, check out the description below, and I'll have a discount code to Aquatic Arts, who's making a point of stocking many different nano gobies, from the bumblebee gobies, the freshwater bumblebee gobies I should say, to various Stiphodons like the birdsong, the neon blue, the cobalt, so on and so forth. So check that out at Aquatic Arts and get 15% off if you'd like while you're at it and here. Alright guys, so let's get some scuds in there and see if we can watch them eat. Alright guys, we've got a scud in the water, and we're gonna see that, well, that didn't go. Oh, maybe the chase is on. Yes, it is. Well, it was. But they're pretty effective even when they don't ambush their prey. They are a very effective little fish at hunting. So we'll try one more in here, see if the female over here is hungry, and see what she does here. She's kind of, I think she might be sleepy. It's been a long day, plus I fed them earlier, but we'll see what she does. He may come over here again. There are 3 in this tank, but the other one's in the far corner. So another thing to let you know about these fish is, while they are essentially peaceful just because of the limited damage they can do, they are a little territorial. The males will kind of butt heads over their own species, and because of that, it's recommended that you have some hiding spots for them, some cracks and crevices. Otherwise, they're gonna kind of roll. They end up kind of rasping around each other and then doing a kind of death roll like an alligator would do once it gets a hold of prey. And not that they see, they'll eat algae too, but not usually on purpose. But again, here, even though it's not colorful, this is why they're known as the dragon goby. Both the temperament and that ability to look pretty fierce with their throat expanded and flexed, and the color changing on a dime. All of it adds up to a pretty cool species. We'll try to put another scud in here and see what happens. Oops, I think the filter's got this scud. We'll add another one here. Try it again. Play it again, Sam. Oh, you got one of them. and looks like there were about 3 in a ball there. So he got one of them, but the other 2 got away. So I don't know where they went off to, but they will hunt them down later. And see, the female, she's gotten a little bit scared or annoyed by us, and she's worked her way under the leaf, and actually she's kind of mimicked the leaf and tried to just look like a shadow on the ground, whereas the male knows he's out in the open. And again, his eyes went right to facing forward, and now they're relaxing slightly again. But if he starts to go on the prowl again for more scuds, you'll see that happen where the eyes hyper focus once more. And let's see, we've got a couple more scuds, so we can try this one more time. Here they come. Boom. That didn't take very long. So yeah, live food is definitely a worthwhile endeavor, and a lot of times when they eat, they'll color up. Again, they don't have strong teeth. They have these very tiny micro teeth in their mouth that help them comb over surfaces, so they can't really crunch the things in half. They need to swallow most of their food whole, which is good for your shrimp if you want to keep shrimp with them. Not so much for baby shrimp. They will eat most caridina or neocaridina shrimp in a bite if it's, you know, a month, 2 months or younger. But other than that, keep them in cool water, keep the nitrates low, and feed them meaty food. You know, the best thing is to feed them frozen food if you don't have live food. But even then, they will graze on biofilm if you have a mature tank. And that's why it's important, is sometimes they get stressed, and in the transition of moving or adapting to their new home, they'll want to graze rather than eat these larger meals that are heavier on them. Usually after they eat a few of a critter, they're going to sit and rest for a while. But I just wanted to share that pretty cool little hunt with you guys, because if you watch them and put a couple of these in the tank, you know, scuds or brine shrimp or whatever it may be, they will actually stalk them for a long time, and sometimes it becomes quite the chase. And a lot of times you'll see them kind of get ready to stalk a shrimp, and I think they don't have the best judge of size, or they're just really gutsy and overzealous. But you want to keep them, like I said, I forgot to mention the exact number, but you want to keep them in water that's cool. You want to keep them in water that is as cool as 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and no hotter than about 76 or so, with their ideal temperature being right around 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, something like 22 to 24, 25 Celsius should be okay for them. Sometimes as low as 20 is fine too. If you're in the numbers kind of around that 24 Celsius or 74 Fahrenheit, 75 Fahrenheit, you want to make sure that you add some surface agitation so that they get plenty of oxygen, because they are a hill stream, a little you know, a very oxygen sensitive species. And again, don't let your nitrates build up. Make sure you clean out any of frozen food if you put bloodworms or blackworms or anything like that that is just going to sit in your tank and not necessarily be eaten. It can build up into waste in the water. But please, if you have any experience with these guys or have any stories, I'd love to hear it. They're one of, like I said, a dozen really interesting fish in the Schismatogobius complex group of species, and they really do differ quite a bit. These guys really do have incredible color changing abilities, and also go easy on them when treating for any sort of disease with treating the entire tank or the water, because like I said, you may think that they have scales, but they don't. It's actually they're little pigment spots, and they do not have scales. They have one continuous skin covering there, and they'll just change the way that looks as they blend into their background. So If you know more about these little guys, or if you'd like to know more and get some, check out the links in the description, or leave me a comment letting me know what it is you know about them or your experience with them. I'd love to hear it, and stay tuned for the next species spotlight on another amazing little nano fish that lives in this hillstream tank. Oh, he's got the skeleton of a little, some sort of little crustacean or snail. And like I said, that's really good for them. Eating that, it gives them basically like fiber, and it clears out their stomach as well as keeps their probiotic balance. So it's a good thing to allow them to eat those micro crustaceans, in that is their primary diet in the wild. And when they have frozen food, sometimes that crunchiness or the calcium and nutrients in those layers of exoskeleton are ruptured when the food is frozen and expands. So this guy's probably going to burrow into the sand soon and just stick his nose or eyes out and feel for vibrations, smell for passing scuds or seed shrimp, and just wait for his next meal, or maybe just digest this one like the female is. So have a good night, and say goodbye to the little dragon goby. Talk to you guys later. Bye.